Right, so here's my Zoom video on my spreadsheet. So here's my cover page with my last name, my first name, the title, secondary title, the Excel scenarios. Put the year on there, 2019, contact information. Interesting thing to know about me is that I can say my ABCs backwards. Here's the first one that I did. I accidentally did the graphs, not only the sentence reports. I did about two or three of them, but here's my first sentence report. I answered second question right here. These three images throughout the universe storyboard were so profound to me because of such contrast between them. In the beginning, the first thing we see is quantum foam, which is believed to be the foundation of the fabric of the universe, which is also hard to measure because it is so minuscule. Then you have my home of Texas in the next image. I found that fascinating because of how it was able to compare to the size of a small planet. And lastly, I chose the last image of the universe as it stated it is only the estimated size. Leading up to that image was a large range of many planets, yet we humans have only discovered a small portion. It really puts your mind to perspective about everything and their size. That comes to correlation with the charts show the difference in measurements of objects being compared to one another. So since I did it, I'll go ahead and show you. So this was the first image that I chose. The second image I chose, and the third image I chose. And then the second one, I also did some graphs. The first sentence, I did the last question of the sentence reports, and I put that referring to the graphs that I have corrected, I noticed that the graphs gave off the perception of a different data set than what the graph showed because of the axis numbers. The y-axis on most graphs did not give off the correct starting place, making the graphs look highly contrasted. On the contrary, some percentage graphs gave off different measurements than the bar graphs because they were mainly dealing with percentages. I learned to pay attention to the numbers on the data set rather than how the incorrect graph portrays the sizing. This is highly important when dealing with data because it can cause a big difference in how our brain perceives the graph data. So here's some examples. I'll just show you right here and right here. Oops, just go ahead and put that right there. Okay. This one I only did halfway. This is when I realized that we weren't really supposed to do the graphs yet. So I answered the second question, and it says Venn diagrams are used to compare and contrast sets of data information. They show which sets have relation towards each other. In the scenario, they discuss three conditions that people have: obesity, type 1 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes. Some either have one or the other, two at the same time, all three, or none at all. That is where intersections come into play. In summary, the Venn diagram puts all the information in a more organized way to easily visually compare and contrast the content. And lastly, I answered the last one talking about outliers. Outliers make the set unusable because they mess with the center of the graph. The center is a median and or mean of the data, and the outlier can skew the shape. One outlier can change the rest of the data, and it would not show the true center of the data / set graph. All right, and that is, there should be more. All right, for number 5, I did the third one. The profit value is the beginning of the parabola. It shows the beginning point. With costs in business, such as hiring workers, buying equipment, and whatnot, it shows how you lose money in the beginning of the parabola. Eventually, as the business starts to pick up, the business reaches a break-even point where the profits start to go positively, sort of like a fresh start at 0. This takes place on the x-axis, the graph shown on the parabola. And on the last one, I answered the fourth question. And I stated, graphs create a visual representation of certain data. With that being said, I found it better to visually see your progress when it comes to setting and reaching your goals. This can go for any goals, but mainly for financial, because it keeps you honest when dealing with how little or more you have been working towards those goals. Examples would be saving for a car, a house, or even a phone. Regardless, it keeps your progress honest while increasing probability with life goals. And those are my 6 scenarios. And hope you enjoyed my Zoom video.